Yes, there we go. And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon here on the East Coast and good morning on the West Coast. This is Patrick Dankwa from Next Up in the Spotlight. I hope you're doing well, where we have entrepreneurs, creators, directors, and more speak to their journey, share their interests, their insights. We really want to create a place where entrepreneurs are seen and heard and they can share their knowledge because you never know who's listening. And the idea is if you can share and help one person, we've done our job. And we have Ashley.ahmadzai joining us today, clairvoyant coach, manifestation mentor for high performers, executives, entrepreneurs, influencers, really helping people step into their full potential, right? She's going to help you overcome your blocks, which many of us have sometimes. She's going to help you see them, identify them, and overcome them, and make you rise to your true potential so we can go from mediocre to magical. Miss Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for that beautiful intro. And I'm so honored to share my wisdom and my passion with your audience. Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you. So before we jump into it, right, how has this year been? I love to ask people because the last 2020, 2021 has been an interesting year. I feel like we're winding down. We're in November. It's about to be Christmas, holiday. So talk to me, like, how has your year been from a entrepreneur perspective and from a life perspective with all this COVID madness?
Yeah. So actually this past week, I just turned 33 and I woke up that morning and thought, 33 is going to be my best year yet.
Okay.
And the reason is because in 2020, we were all going inward. And from a global perspective, everybody was focused on the one thing so microscopic, right? And so everyone was forced to go inward and to be home. So we were really forced to look at our shadows and the life that we were living and to ask, what are our priorities versus what are we prioritizing? And so now in 2021, we're really evaluating that as the world is opening up and really seeing how do we fall along with, what do we want our life to look like and what habits are we willing to instill and to commit to design the life that we want. Right. So now at 33 in November, it has been such a transformative year. It's been a lot of emotions, a lot of roller coasters, even a brand evolution. I wouldn't say a rebrand, but a brand evolution of baby Ashley.ahmadzai to teen Ashley.ahmadzai to now stepping into my maturity and my wisdom as a true coach and mentor for so many women and men as well around the world. So it has been beautiful and it has been vulnerable and it has been all of the things. I'm so grateful that we're in it together.
Absolutely. And I agree with everything you said there. I think 2020, 2021 has been a year where it's tested people's vulnerability, their threshold, what they can do, especially across the board. I don't want to say no one has been impacted, but when I look at entrepreneurs, influencers, that's the market I know. And I'm curious to know, what have you seen has been the biggest roadblock for people, even just from a mindset perspective?
Yeah, we're cosmically moving into this shift right now of the masculine do, go, grind, accomplish, hustle. This overproduction is where we have found our and overextension is really where we have found our value, right? Who has the most accolades? Who is the loudest? Who's the most recognized? And now we're starting to shift into an understanding of what feminine leadership is and what that looks like, and shifting from doing and feeling exhausted and worn out and tired to what does it mean to be happy and fulfilled and still be a leader that's respected, not because of what you've accomplished, but who you truly are. Right. And so I would say the roadblock right now is the transition from normalizing the masculine leadership into this balance of the feminine. And I've noticed it too. In order for the butterfly to truly go through its metamorphosis, we have to turn to goo. Right. And completely restructure. And so the roadblock is right now, many of us are in the goo of feeling a little bit confused of who am I? What do I do? Is this what I want? And as we're understanding this, it's really important for us as a clairvoyant, as a coach in this field, especially for entrepreneurs, lean into the goo, trust this process. If things feel a little bit blurry, it's okay, because as we move out of this year and welcome 2022, you're going to see all of the pieces start coming together, and we're able to lean into a whole new power and a whole new perspective in our life, in our relationships, and in our business.
Yes, I love the way you said it, leaning into the goo, because I feel it's almost like uncharted waters for people, right? Like they understand they have this feminine energy, but they know that they're surrounded by this masculine energy. So it's like how do I be myself when I don't feel comfortable in the environment I'm in? So I love how you put it. And you talked about, being a clairvoyant coach and mentor. So maybe let's start there for those that don't know. And I know a little bit because you educated me. So talk to us to what is a clairvoyant coach and mentor and manifestor, maybe who you are and what you do. Let's go there.
Yeah, in the industry, we have life coach, we have business coach, we have all these different titles. And as I was coming up with how do I really describe what I do, clairvoyant energy coach, clairvoyant success coach, it's what I can come up with to the best of my ability to share what it means to not only tap into your energy of success, and that is again not just doing but being. Who do you want to be? What do you want to create? But the clairvoyant aspect is yes, I am psychic, and all of my gateways are open, which is the psychic abilities to receive information. But clairvoyance is the ability to see mental image pictures with our eyes open. So it's like in our mind's eye, but you're not seeing it with your physical eyes. And that is my primary gift. So when I am doing, when I'm working with a client one-on-one, if I am doing a psychic reading, or if I'm just doing business coaching or life coaching, I can actually tap into their energy system and notice where are the blocks, what is the story that's showing up, what is an attachment that might be blocking them from their next step. And I see it not just in words or in feelings, but I'll see it in an image. I'll see these metaphors or these stories that pop up, and I'll say, I'm visualizing X, Y, and Z. And it tells a story that helps the client understand, oh my gosh, that totally resonates. And now I know what to do. And I want to share this because some people, they get kind of like, oh my gosh, what is this like psychic stuff?
Yeah, I was about to go there. So I think you're going to the same place.
Yeah, but everybody is psychic in some way, shape, or form. And for the longest time, it was demonized. There are a lot of misconceptions. There's definitely a lot of stereotypes, and for good reason, because just like we have really phenomenal doctors who save lives, we also have some not so great doctors, right? And same with whatever industry, there's the light and there's the shadow side. Same thing with psychic, but everybody is clairvoyant. And an example of this is if you dream. I'd love to know in the comments, or anyone who's watching, like, have you ever had a dream? And if so, you're seeing a story, you're seeing a mental image picture, but your eyes are closed. How are you seeing that? It's through clairvoyance. And so I am just able to do that on purpose and with intention. And many people are, if you're driving in your car and you start thinking about that funny thing that your kid did, or that interesting conversation that you had with a client, that's clairvoyance. And so once I teach people a clairvoyant cash flow method, so that way we can tap into our psychic and intuitive abilities in a positive and empowering way. So that way we can amplify our manifestation potential, because the only difference between something that is in the past, like a memory, and something in the future that we want to manifest is our belief and conviction that it is true and possible for us. And so when we're able to tap into those gifts, and I kind of teach that method to my clients, then we're able to manifest even more quickly.
I love that. I love what you said about clairvoyant cash flow method, because I think when it comes to especially money and finances, people have these limited beliefs, especially if we've grown up in an ecosystem, a family, and we've been conditioned to think this is all you can ever have. This is all you can ever achieve, right? There's limitations there. Maybe you can speak to how that works, or even before we get that, what are typical money blocks that you tend to see with your clients and, entrepreneurs, influencers? Right, because
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been actually almost 10 years now that I have been in this industry, working with females in particular in entrepreneurship. And throughout my journey and really diving into and really honing in my psychic skills and abilities, I was noticing these patterns showing up over and over again as I was evaluating and asking, what are the actual blocks? Like, we talk about it, but what is it? So when I was really diving in, the three main ones that I have found are suppressed emotions, trapped energies, and limiting beliefs. So suppressed emotions, that is the guilt, the shame, the grief, the deep emotions that we have been taught it's not safe for us to express, because then women were seen as crazy, men they're seen as weak, right? And because we have been in this interesting space of it's not safe to express emotions, the only reason those emotions get suppressed is because we feel that we can't let them go and we can't set them free. So what happens is these emotions will become so suppressed within our system that they can actually lead to illness. They can actually lead to disease. And not only that, but when we're trying to manifest and create amazing, beautiful things in our life, for example, if we want to attract, I love to use the example of $20,000, a $20,000 day, but we have guilt around receiving, because when you were a child, you would get in trouble for that, or there was some story around why that wasn't safe.
Right.
That suppressed emotion, no matter how hard or intentionally you logically say, I'm ready, or I want this money, if you do not allow that suppressed emotion to leave and to be fully processed and let go, then you're blocking that money to come in. So suppressed emotion is number one.
Okay.
Number two is trapped energy. And we have our physical form, and then we do have our auric field. This is measurable by science.
Right.
And what can happen is, say, as an entrepreneur, you hop on the phone and you are so excited to share your new program, and then someone says, no, I don't want to hear about it. And maybe they say something else that's kind of negative and hurts a little bit.
Right.
That is going to very likely, depending on our durability, is going to enter into our auric space, into our field. Think a passive aggressive comment that somebody says as a network at a networking meeting or something like that.
Right.
It'll float around in our space, and you can tell you are driving and that thought floats around. And you're
Okay.
like, there it is. Or you're in the shower and then you're thinking about it again. That's an example of a trapped energy. And if we don't let it go,
Mhm.
it can manifest physically in our tissues. So
Mhm.
if we want to manifest and we want to call things in, but we have other people's icky voices and thoughts and passive aggressive judgments about what we're doing, what is we are capable of accomplishing, that is a block. So clearing out the trapped energies.
Right.
And then third is the limiting beliefs. And that's something that we can call cognitively from our conscious mind, really rewire. So our subconscious mind is manifesting what we truly, truly desire in our world, in our life, and in our business.
Wow, I love that. I mean, it's such a process, and I'm curious, like for a person who's very much in their head, like I'm an emotional being, very much like all my friends. If any of them see this, they've always like, "You're so emotional," but because of that, there's a heightened awareness of my aura and my energy. Now, for someone who's very much a thinker and almost is unaware of emotions or can't see when someone's emotions are up and down, how do they begin that process, that journey of kind of connecting to your aura, understanding the shifts in the energy?
Yeah, my first question is why? Is why have they become so disconnected
Mhm.
from their energy system and from their emotions? What happened when they were younger? What belief did they buy and they begin to own, to say my survival and my safety are dependent on me leaning more into logic, into thinking, and
Right.
therefore that became their belief system, that became how they protect themselves. So now we know that person as the logical human, and that's who he is, and he or she is not capable of tapping into emotions. But if we think about it as a child, babies are so cute and they read emotion and they're just giggly, for you just make funny faces at them and they cry, they laugh, they giggle. So we are born these perfect beings, and then what happens is we hear and absorb and begin to believe based on our environment, and the people that we surround ourselves with. That becomes like our inner narrative and how we perceive the world. So the first question I would ask is why?
Okay.
How is that keeping them safe? And then
Okay.
number two is allowing them, said person, to lean in with curiosity of
Mm.
what would it look like if emotions were safe? What would it look like if I were to tap in and allow that to be safe? And then number three is come hang out with me. Come hang out with me. We will crack it wide open. And there's going to be so much truth in what I share that people, no matter what like mindset they're in, what background they come from, there's no way that they can't relate to it. For example, suppressed emotions. People
Yes.
are like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even realize that this grief that I never let go of, how that's so deeply interconnected with the block that I have around money or a relationship or whatever that is.
I love that. And I want to get more into kind of money blocks and what you do to help. But I'm very curious, like when someone comes to you, how would they describe it? Oftentimes they describe the issue as X, but you see it as ABC, and that's truly what it is, the layers. But typically, just for those, I want people to be able to identify, like, oh, okay, I think that could be me. Because sometimes when we talk about what it really is, there's a bit of a disconnect. So when people come to you, how do they describe it? What does it look like that's happening in their workspace and in their life?
Yeah, multiple things. I have a client coming to mind, and I'll call her Tina for this example. And
Right.
so Tina, she came to me and she was just felt like everything was falling apart. That's really what it was. She had tried a therapist and she's like, I'm just talking about the same things over and over again. Her relationship was falling apart. She was getting exhausted and tired at her job. She was gaining weight. She was feeling really fatigued. And she's in a service-based business, but she can also earn commission. So
Okay.
she's like, I don't know what to do. And that's usually when people see me. I've tried everything else. I don't know what to do. Please help. And
Right.
so when we were diving in and doing our work in clearing, not only psychically, but also kind of like through talk therapy, if you will,
Mhm.
clearing the suppressed emotions, trapped energies, and the limiting beliefs, and also highlighting any psychological addictions that she had that were keeping her in this pattern of attracting these experiences into her life. Then she was able to shift her commission. She went from, I think this is after we did a 8-week program together. And a week after we finished our program, she sent me a picture and she's like, holy beep. Look at this. Her commissions were over 10,000 for that month, not including her base pay, but over 10,000 for her commissions. And I was like, wait, what is it usually? And she's like, the most I've had is like 3 to 4. And
Right.
so by doing in this 8-week program together, this deep clearing work, that was what the result was. And so to go back to your question is when people come to see me, everything will feel out of place. And
Wow.
really, I know it comes back to these 3 things
Okay.
is we are attracting it. We, in some part of us, needs to have to release a belief that we are worthy of more, or release a belief that we aren't worthy of more, and replace it with the belief that great waves of abundance are flowing to us right now, and we are about to receive more money than we could ever possibly imagine.
I love that. I love that. It reminds me because these last few years have been a huge shift for me personally speaking, right? But I subscribe to the belief that in order for me to achieve success, things had to be difficult. So when you talk about that psychological addiction, which I want you to elaborate on, I fully subscribe to it, and I would run through walls and swim against stream and go against the grain and fight things because there was also this drive in me. So I felt like, okay, it's going to be hard. And everyone in my ecosystem, most people, I also felt like they were in reinforcing that, no, it's going to be hard. Just keep going, keep going. Even though at my core, I felt this disconnect from whatever I was doing, I still felt like I'm on the right path. It's only now, Ashley, that I'm just like, I feel like I've come out of like a coma, so to speak. I feel like,
Oh, the goo.
yes, the goo. And I'm just like, oh, is this what, like, I'm just getting it now. So I love to hear more about that psychological addiction, how, and I guess it relates to the goo, but maybe you can elaborate on that before we talk about wealth strategies.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that because I love your honesty. I love your vulnerability because we need more of this. This is the juice of life. And this is what we all need to sit with and really celebrate and think on. And yeah, so psychological addictions, if we have a belief that we aren't able to receive abundance unless we earn it,
Mm,
and what we believe about our reality is ultimately true. If we believe that we cannot earn or receive abundance, whatever that is, relationship, car, wealth, exposure, accolades, whatever that abundance or that wealth represents to you,
yeah,
without struggling for it,
right,
what we believe is ultimately true.
right,
And so know that we have a choice. We have free will, and we get to be, number one, aware of what is this pattern? What is it that keeps repeating? Number 2, why? Where did it come from? Where
right,
did I learn this? Because somewhere along the way, we did. Like someone showed us, someone told us that that was really necessary. And then number 3 is what would you like to see instead? Because we really do get to design our life. I love that we're moving into a new year. And we really, every day is an opportunity to choose again and to shift our perspective. But I also love with the new year, it's a beautiful time to start reevaluating, what is it that we want our life to look like?
okay,
And I'll share this story because it was so revolutionary for me within the past week. And
please,
I've always been known to be super high achiever, like the top of everything I've ever done. And all of my partners and even my friends, they're like, Ashley's a workaholic, a workaholic. And I would just kind of take that as a badge of honor because people would say, oh, Ashley's so busy with her business. She's so successful. And so it felt like I was really having my needs met. And my needs were to be recognized, to be seen, and to be appreciated for the hard work that I was doing. Right. And so when I really thought about it and I started getting so heavily in my work, as I was mentioning in the very beginning of this podcast and this interview, was the masculine, right?
Yes.
That masculine
That's
energy.
masculine energy. Yeah.
I got so caught up in it that I realized I wasn't spending as much time with my daughter as I would
Mm,
have loved to. I wasn't sleeping as much as I should have. I wasn't eating as much. I wasn't spending as much time with my husband. And I was
right.
like, wait, what is happening? Why am I so obsessed with my work? And when I really thought about it, I realized it was an addiction, but I wasn't necessarily addicted to the emotions that business allowed me to have, right? My clients are like, oh, you're amazing. I'm having another transformation, right? Like, dopamine, dopamine, dopamine hit. It wasn't only the emotional addiction of that in my business, but it was also that building my business was the one thing at the core that would never abandon me because
Ah,
that's a core wound of mine. My
right.
husband could pass. My daughter is 6 years old right now. She's going to graduate and move on and maybe move out. All of those things, right? She's going to leave. That's honestly like a huge fear of mine. I'm still
Right.
working through.
Right.
And the one thing that I could focus on and I felt safe being addicted to was creating this one thing that would never leave me and I had control of. And so when you're really able to dial it in our life and our business of what is it that what patterns are we getting caught up in and why and what do we want to shift and have it be different, now I get to shift that perspective and say I love my business and it's a part of me and what I get to do to support me in the life I want to live. And
Mm.
that gets to be the fun place that I hang out in and I dream, not necessarily, and I get my dopamine hit, not necessarily working 24/7 and to feeling so exhausted I'm not even sleeping.
No, I get it. I get it. I even with my partner and I, and like the thing that I always run into and I see highly successful, and you'll probably see this in your demographic too, and I appreciate you sharing is how do you find that balance, between I'm a mother and I have my kids and I have my partner and I'm doing this entrepreneurial journey, but I want to give everything my attention. I want to be a great partner, a great mother, a great entrepreneur. And even from the male perspective, right? You want to be able to balance family and life, have time for kids and have time for entrepreneurship and have time for your interests. But when you're in this entrepreneur, you have that hat on. There's so many different hats that you wear as well. So, any advice in terms of how to create that balance or how to prevent yourself from feeling guilty, because it's kind of like the money that flows in will allow me to have the life that I want.
Yes.
But if I'm present, I should be also be able to give to my family and be present. So it's like this double-edged sword. So maybe we can speak to balance and then we'll shift.
I love this question because it's something that I have been really reflecting on very deeply over the past few weeks. So number one, what has really helped is releasing the idea of balance and
Mm,
replacing it with harmony. Because in all honesty, especially as an entrepreneur, things aren't always going to be in balance, right?
gotcha.
Because sometimes if we're in the middle of a launch, we're going to be focused on all the strategy, all the things needed to do that, which means like my husband's going to be making dinners, right? My
Right,
husband might be taking Presley or picking her up from school,
right,
but I can create harmony that when it's done, like my family and I have this agreement, okay, the launch is over at this time,
right.
then mommy can get back into this harmony, right?
Got you.
So I would say just be really honest with that of like you don't have to balance everything because otherwise it's like this, right? You're like all over the place. Um, so balance versus harmony. Another thing is I actually learned this from an amazing speaker, a game changer. I forgot who it was, but she said balls will drop eventually when you're in business and you're balancing all the things. Balls will drop, but you need to know which ones are glass and which ones are rubber.
Ooh,
Yes, and
that
so
I love that.
it's so powerful, especially when you are in a partnership, when you have children, when you have like these big obligations, right? You want to, I am not going to, the example that was used, I wish I could remember her name, that she had used is if your child has a recital, right? You're not, and she's worked so hard for that. That is a glass ball. you do not let that drop, right? Like you're going to catch that one. But if it's, hey, Farhad gets to pick, who's my husband, he gets to pick up Presley from school one of the days and I'm not able to, that's a rubber ball. That is a rubber ball. It can bounce, right? So knowing what is rubber and knowing what is glass is going to be really important for you too. And then the third thing I've really been reflecting on is I wrote, what is my ideal morning, my ideal evening, and how do I want the rest of my week and my month to go? How do I want to feel? And even though I would love to have this multi-million, which I will, $1 million business and this huge thriving team and these gorgeous conferences and all of these things, that needs to fit into my dream life. My dream life does not fit into that vision.
Well said.
Because at the end of the day, my dream life and what I'm creating for my family, and that is, it holds my values and my just everything, all of that beautiful juice of life. This is our priority. And sometimes all of the glory and what we get recognized for can actually make us the most exhausted and sad and depressed. That's why a lot of people who have a lot of money, they realize like, I'm not as happy as I thought I would.
Exactly.
And so what I have learned is, and it's kind of still a hard pill for me to swallow, is I'm going to miss out on I'm going to choose to not participate in some really awesome events because I'm prioritizing my family. And I'm going to choose to not maybe do that huge launch that's going to require so much of my time right now while my daughter is little, because I choose her. And even though I really, really want that, my priority is to be happy and to build a sustainable foundation for my family. And maybe I get to do that when my daughter's in junior high or when she's in high school and she's a little bit more sustainable. But right now, this is my priority and this is the life that I choose to live. So building your vision and your dream life and having them fit together, but primarily built around your happiness.
I love that. I love that as your foundation, right? Otherwise, you kind of get blown in any direction. But wow, Ashley, that was so powerful. Like you had me thinking about, what are my next steps and how do I want to make sure so that you don't cram your dream life into something, like you create it and everything kind of falls in place. That was beautiful.
Allow it to unfold. And I think that's another thing we can get really caught up in. Again, moving from the masculine to the feminine energy. I think eventually we're going to find this really beautiful blend is we don't have to rush. We don't have to do everything by the time we're 30 or we're 40 or whatever, 50, whatever it is.
Right.
What's more important? Like the goal of life is not to accomplish everything and as much as possible. The goal of life is to be happy and to be healthy and to smile and to laugh and to feel like that true joy. And again, like that juice of life. And so anything that's going to take that away from us or it's going to drain our energy so we're not fully in that high vibration and voltage is something that we can allow to unfold in the perfect time when we have the capacity to do that.
Yes, I believe that. And we need to be reminded of that. And thank you for sharing that, because we put these time constraints on ourselves. Like this has to be done in order for me to be happy. It has to be done within this time and then I'll be happy. And I have to finish this by X and then I'll be, I'll be pleased. But you're right. Like allow it to flow naturally and unravel. The last thing I want to get to before we wrap up here, and thank you so much for your time, Ashley, is because we're talking about money blocks and ways to overcome them and have abundance in life and in business, maybe you can leave us with some 3 tips for the entrepreneurs who are trying to scale and grow. Because we talked about the blocks, we talked about your demographic and your avatar, but maybe little things that they can do that they can start to put into practice.
Yes, this tool has changed. I cannot wait to share with you. It has changed my life and it's changed so many of my clients. And it is called the 20K shower.
Okay.
And quick little thing I will share here is I do have what's called the 20K club. And it is because of this tool that I channeled and started doing it. And now it is like the most impactful thing that I love to teach my clients.
Okay.
So with manifestation, I want you to think about the FATE formula, FATE. In order to manifest whatever it is that you're calling in, yes, we're going to clear the blocks. Yes, there's many, many layers to this, but to really get started, we want to align with the FATE formula. FATE is your feelings. You want your feelings, your actions, your thoughts, and your energy to all be flowing in the same direction of your dreams, right? If your feelings are, Oh yeah, no. We'll be honest. So the thoughts are like, I really want this, and your energy is like, yeah, I can see it. I can see this for myself. But your feelings are like, I'm not worthy. I don't know what I would do with this. Maybe people are gonna try to take money from me. Right now, you're going in different directions. So your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and your energy—they all need to be flowing in the same direction in order to make this happen. So my favorite tool is the 20K shower. It was a huge vision for me when I was a single mom and I was really struggling. And I heard in a network marketing company that somebody was making $20,000 a month. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what does that even look like? I made that in a year, it felt so crazy. And so what I did is I would get in the shower
Okay.
and a glass shower, and I'd put 20K in the steam. And then I'd massage my hair and I'd say, what would it feel like? Who would I tell? What would I do with it? Right. So I've
Mhm.
started to align the feelings, the thoughts, what action I would take, and then
Okay.
my energy really getting in alignment with it's mine already. I don't have to wait. Like it's already there. And
Okay.
I'm not one to let the steam blow over my dreams.
Of
Right.
course.
So as soon as the steam would come over, I would write 20K. And so this is what I would encourage for you, whatever your number is. Maybe it's 20,000, maybe it's 50, maybe it's, I don't $2, right? Money is energy. But I would encourage you to write that in the shower. And while the water is rinsing you clean, energetically, physically, all of the things, act as if, and then it shall be. And so tune in to what that feels like. What action would you take? All of these things, and watch it unfold for you. And I have so many testimonials. If you go to client.results on Instagram, you're going to see a bunch of my client testimonials and people who are actually in the 20K club from using my tools and methodology for this. But I cannot wait to hear your testimonial after consistently doing your 20K shower.
I love that. I love that. Ashley.ahmadzai, thank you so much. Let them know how to get in touch with you. I appreciate you carving the time to be here on Next Up in the Spotlight. Clairvoyant, success coach, mentor, manifestation, helping high performers, entrepreneurs, executives achieve their goals, break their barriers, and really step into their magical selves. Where can they get in touch with you? How can they get a hold of you?
Thank you. Yeah, if you would like to go to jointhe20kclub.com, you can hop on a call with me. I would love to connect with you. Please, I'm so deeply passionate about sharing this wisdom with my audience and anyone who tunes in. And then also, if you wanted to look me up, Ashley Ahmadzai on Instagram or client.results, that's a little bit easier to spell than my name. You can message me on there, and I'd be so happy to connect with you there as well.
Phenomenal. Ashley, thank you. I appreciate you doing this today.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.